VTDA.
Hell yeah.
Developer Update, Easter Edition. Einen wunderschönen guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. And now I will switch to English because I think most people will not understand my wonderful German. So it's now 2 a.m. in the morning, it's Easter Monday, and I'm off to head to bed, but not without some update about what's going on behind the scenes of VTDA.io. So first things first, I'm quite busy with besides switching my development computer to a Windows setup again, because honestly I really like the experience with Linux, but I'm a little bit over my head when it comes to like finding out why my sound is stopping to work, or how the boot menu is not displayed, or why the latency to my storage server where I'm developing on is so high that it's unbearable to like save and update anything. And it was some parts that were really good, and others are just I do not understand what I'm doing there. So I'm switching back to Windows, or I switched back to Windows, and that took me some like hours to get everything over, to reinstall and driver updates and all the necessities of updates of programs, and of course getting to my storage server again, finding a way that is working as good as Linux in that regards. That was really nice. Working on an NFS mount directly on a remote storage brought me the confidence that I had lost when I really lost because of a hard drive crash and some stupidity of mine afterwards. I lost so much progress on development like a year ago, so I'm really more secure there, and that's a good thing. But still, okay, but that's one thing that you shouldn't be worried about. But I was working on data migration, like the data we already had collected on VTD assets, or that I created for you for importing Adventure modules. And like as you probably know, that now I will add some sprinkles in terms of processing instructions. So when you send me your data to the server, it will like have more detailed knowledge about how to transform and create a better result in the end. And I'm busy doing that. And I'm like, if we look at the adventures, I'm like at Ghost of Saltmarsh right now, and that took me not too long. What took really immensely long time was two things that occurred to me, or that I noted when I was working on the processing instructions and really compared side to side the D&D Beyond content and the result in the end. Either something's changed, or the old puzzle wasn't that good as anyone remembered, but I didn't receive any feedback, so probably all the things that I imported weren't really looked at. That's just an assumption. Because what I saw, two things. First, row table support was okay-ish, but it wasn't great, because so many tables weren't detected as row tables, or tables were detected as row tables, but they were not row tables. So they resembled row tables, perhaps, but they were in them. And that's an assumption. Some formatting changed, so we now get tables that are basically 4 columns. On the left-hand side is the result. If you roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, then this happens, and the other like 3 or 4 columns will describe the result, but in columns, not in text. So, for example, the first column will be a general description of what is like demanded from the party. The second column will be the location where it will take place, and the third column will be a description of opponents that your party will face. And it is a roll table, but it looks different. These weren't detected by the old importer at all. So when I was working on revisiting like Curse of Strahd, that was very apparent to me. And the other thing that was apparent to me is that the way I create the journal entries for the map nodes wasn't perfect, because when we look at the village of Barovia, we will see that we have areas of the village, and it is like Bildred's Mercantile, Blood of the Wine Tavern, Mad Mary's Townhouse. All these are depicted here on the map from E1 to E7. But when we look at the church, we will see that it has its own battle map, and it is basically hierarchically beneath the town of Barovia. It has a church with their own journal entries, and the way the parser worked like 10 days ago was those weren't available, because it will take all these paragraphs, all that's beneath E5 church, because that is needed on the town of Barovia to be placed over here, and will take all that, the whole complete paragraph, and will basically cut it and replace it with a link to the journal entry. And these entries will be lost because they are not there any longer. So that really required me to revamp the whole analysis and structure of everything. And that's working better now, but it creates the issue that I will revisit basically from the start. I will need to go back to Baldur's Gate, re-import everything and adjust, or at least make sure that it's working good. So that's that. The role table improvements were basically caused by really time-intensive manual adjustments needed, because the detection pattern was so off. And now with the reworked and recreated, basically, I took a different approach, and with all the stuff that I learned right now, I think I got an easier and a better result now. This will enable me to go quicker by when crafting the processing instruction from now on. So now if you look at, for example, Dragon of Icespire Peaks, plenty of maps, but not super complicated. It took me roughly like 45 minutes to create the processing instructions and to enrich it with the already existing data. So there's a smaller module. The bigger ones, like when I was working on Curse of Strahd, is a good example. It's a rather large module. It has plenty of role tables, and that took me way longer than needed because of the manual work that was needed to create the role tables by hand instead of using the detected ones, because the detection was bad. Now with these 2 days that I spent on creating a good and great, not good, just it's a great one, as a great role table parser, that will enable me to process or create the processing instructions for all following modules way quicker. So it's these 2 days were spent really well. And as a good side effect is that you will now be able to like import row tables individually. So when you're talking about or thinking about like Player's Handbook or Dungeon Master's Guide, you will be able to import the row tables that you really need. And when we look at that, we can see all these import row table now here. So we'll import that row table for you. And if we look at that, that's the best example for really complicated parsing of a row table, because we've got not one, but 2 tables that are basically one row table. Or we can see here, it's 9 row tables. Import 9 row tables with one click of a button, because we've got basically this is the result. It's a switched row table. So this is the result, and these are the ranges, so the weights that you need to roll. So for if you are in the jungle and you want to combat no undead, you will roll this column, and if you roll an 8, you will fight X-Peaks. Now, because it's so enormously big, they split that into tables, and that I needed to join. That was working in the old importer too. But one thing that is really good now, these links are links pointing to some kind of description a little bit below the row table. So they are references outside the row table, and those are like implemented to be added in this row table. So when we are rolling on like a random encounter in the jungle, for example, we roll here. We can see, okay, undefined. Wow, what a great example. Let's see, undead weight. Undead weight. Okay, it's super nice when I demo something and I find bugs in the meantime. So it's undead weight. Well, okay, normally, and let's roll again and let's delete it very, very quickly. You can see that it will just insert this unt, this passage over here. So you do not need to reference to D&D Beyond. You can, of course, still click here and go to the same paragraph, but you will have that now in-game. So that's one of the nicer touches that I managed to do almost perfectly. So what's going on? Let's talk about, one thing that I managed to accomplish was to VTD assets is now VTDA.io. So I managed to flip the switch. Oh, that's it. Honestly, like VTD assets would come now. I needed to go there once a day to clean up some space and free some disk space in order to allow everyone without restrictions to import everything. And it was just like really cumbersome. And I was thinking about, okay, now we were in roughly like 4 to 5 months where everyone was able to import everything, and perhaps it's time to switch to the new tools. I will still get like messages, and obviously I really don't know what I should do. I'm pretty public about what's going on Patreon. I made the launch announcements. I advertised everyone should know about the migrations to VTD.io from VTDassets.com, but still so many people are out of the loop, and that like banner or like web page that is plainly saying a fresh start, VTDassets.com is dead, but the project is still alive and kicking, and very much so, and providing all the information that you need to get started in one place. I hope that will pick up people that are super busy in their lives and I just want to run some games on Dungeons & Dragons without hassle. So that is something that I managed to do. It took me 2 hours. I wasn't able to create a static website on the VTD.com server. So I just, after 2 hours, and I really doubted everything I know about IT and about my personal abilities to do anything related to IT. I created a new server with just a static web page. Switched the DNS tree. That's why you saw the error messages about like gateway not available or whatever. So now it's online for 2 weeks, and then I shut it down too. And we will have VTD.io solely. And 2 weeks is roughly the time span that I expect it will take to migrate the complete adventure model data. And that's pretty okay. So if you think, oh man, I want to run the Lost Mines of Endelver this weekend and I haven't imported it yet, I think Lost Mines is a bad example because it's available, but perhaps Dragons of Icefire Peak, then you will just need to be a little bit more patient. And I'm super sorry, but one thing at a time. You will be getting the new tools soonish. As I told before in the last dev update, there's a new VTD IDDB in the works. It's all the time in the works, but it's mainly available but it's not compatible to the data structures currently served. So in order to release VTT-ADDB, I need to make sure that the content on the database is the same as VTT-ADDB expected to be. So I need to release that synchronously, and with setting up the dev environment and switching off VTT assets and having Easter and trying to spend some time with the family, I didn't manage to do it properly, and I do want to make it properly. So I do not intend to rush anything here. So I know that there are plenty of people that are like somehow outright angry about not being able to import everything as they used to be, and I understand that. But I think, like, given the fact that I'm not Netflix or Microsoft or Apple with like thousands of support people and thousands of developers, I'm just one person, and please do not forget this is just a hobby for me, and I think the tools are amazing, but they need some more time to really be mature and to really be of service for you. And I know that there is a small gap of unavailability right now, but I think it's worth it, and I think you will manage to run a game without being able to import adventure modes as is. So what's still possible already is importing all monsters and items and stuff. So there's plenty to do to get you over this little drought. And with that said, and this is mainly the third take I do on this video, and I hope audio is now okay, because I would not re-record it again. I wish you a good night, and take care, and good health for you and your loved ones. Bye bye.